The Colorado House passed a bill that would sign Colorado onto the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. If Governor Polis signs the bill, which is now headed to his desk, the state would pledge Colorado's electoral votes to whichever candidate wins the popular vote in a presidential election. Natasha, some people are looking at this that, oh, well, my vote won't count. I understand that point, but seems like a way around the whole Electoral College. But it's also something that was the framers put in the Constitution. What do you think about this idea of trying to get around something that has been part of how we've elected our leaders now at least 45 different times in our history?
Well, do you remember 1999 when people had kind of forgotten what the Electoral College was? That, of course, changed in 2000, and that's what some of these efforts date back to. This, and as you laid out, it's this question of what does the Electoral College mean in today's political climate, and do we still want it? I think there's some hearty debate that needs to be had about it, and we've been having that hearty debate for nearly 2 decades now. What I think is interesting is it would tie it in, but it is only activated if more states join in. So if Colorado decides to do this now, then it would be something that is only activated if other states get on board with it as well. So that would have to get up to 270. If we joined, it would be about 179 right now. What I think was interesting is there were some I think both joking and serious attempts to rename this bill various things, but what it really means is like get rid of the Electoral College. Now, I do think if this passes and if it goes to Polis's desks and he signs it in, there's already some rumbling that there will be efforts to put it on a statewide ballot. I would not vote against that. I bet that if I was placing a bet, I would guess that is going to be on the ballot. You would not bet against that. You're not saying how you would vote. Yes, yeah, I'm not saying how I would vote.
Okay.
But I would say that it does end up on the ballot because I think that this is something that Coloradans are going to want to discuss at great length. So we'll have plenty of time at this table to do just that.
Scott, both parties have seen the Electoral College rob what would have been a victory in their eyes and give it to the other guy. Yes, in this case, it's always been to the other guy. But is it time for states to be rebelling against the Electoral College, or does this seem just because if one party is against it right now, it could be a system that party might actually want a few years down the road? What do you think about this whole maneuver?
Sure. So I think this is often talked about in the context of recent elections and electoral politics. And I was thinking about, so recently a gentleman by the name of Nick Hanauer, who is a pretty active policy advocate around income inequality issues out in Washington State, wrote a great piece about redefining centrism. And he talks about redefining centrism as not the middle point between what the powerful elite and everybody else wants, but rather the middle point between what the majority of people in the country are dealing with. And somehow, one way or another, we have got to start grappling with the issues that are affecting the majority of Americans, many of whom live in dense population centers in states like ours. And so I think there's a new conversation that's emerging about what our politics should look like and how do we define centrism. And maybe centrism isn't just the relationship between the powerful elite who tend to control the Electoral College and everybody else, which was reflected in the popular vote. And maybe the dynamics in this country have changed to the point where we need to redefine what the center point is, and that means acknowledging that the majority of people are dealing with issues that don't seem to be getting dealt with by the powerful elite in Washington. So I think that's one perspective on this issue.
Patty, the Electoral College conversations as a political junkie are always very interesting to me. It's one of these things where you look through the history of presidential elections, all the states have gone all different ways. It's not as if there's just, right now it seems like in our very recent history, California always goes blue or Texas is always red. It's not always the case you look throughout history, and that's why the Electoral College is still making states like Michigan or Wisconsin still relevant in an election. Is it time to throw out the Electoral College, or is it just an immediate feeling about not getting what I wanted, and so let's just change the system?
It is time to have a discussion of the Electoral College. You might be very interested in it, but I think if you go into the average bar in Denver, Colorado, no one is talking about the Electoral College. No one even remembers what it is. They think maybe they graduated from it, but they don't know. So we need to have that kind of conversation because our founding fathers were very smart in many ways, but they did not envision the Colorado we have today, the 50 states we have today, and the elections we've been having lately too. So I think if if you're right and Polis is signing this and it goes to a ballot, we will finally actually have a discussion on the Electoral College, and we'll see where Colorado feels it really wants to go on it.
Krista, is it time for a longer discussion about the Electoral College?
I think we need to end the discussion with the word no. We've got the Electoral College. Right now, if this bill is signed and that compact goes into effect, we will have effectively outsourced the Colorado vote, the right to vote for president, to California, Illinois, and New York. And I've looked back at the records. There have been times where Colorado has gone for a different candidate than what the popular vote chose. We would be basically giving away our right to do that and giving our votes to the rest of the nation. And I can think of a scenario where you have, say, Senator Bennett runs, maybe Howard Schultz, and President Trump. In that three-way race, harder to say than you think, let's say Trump gets the popular vote, the state of Colorado goes for Bennett, our vote's then automatically ceded to that popular vote. That's not fair. That's not fair to the state. It's not fair to the voters of the state. This is a bad idea. If it runs, it needs to be knocked down either by a lawsuit or it needs to be done away with in a ballot proposal.